All right. So in chapter 26, we went over all the major classes of plants. They included our non-vascular plants, which are our bryophytes, our seedless vascular plants, which are our lycophytes, and our monophytes, which are our ferns. And our seed plants, so our gymnosperms and our angiosperms. With chapter 28, we're going to talk about the seed plants. And to start with, we're going to talk about how our angiosperms are further divided into two taxonomic classes called our monocots and our dicots. You'll see the dicots sometimes referred to as eudicots. So with our monocots and dicots, what we're referring to is the seed leaf. And so one of the biggest distinguishing features of them is whether you have one cotyledon, which is our mono, meaning one cotyledon, or two cotyledons, meaning our dicots, or sometimes, or as in this text, called eudicots, true dicots. There are other differences between our monocots and our eudicots. With our monocots, the leaf veins run parallel, vascular tissue is scattered, the roots are fibrous, has one opening for pollen, and the flowers have multiples of 3. So the petals are in multiples of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12. Examples of our monocots are our grasses, grains, orchids, and palms. With the eudicots, the two cotyledons, we have a net-like pattern for our veins. The vascular tissue is arranged in a ring, and we'll look at this both in stems and roots at the end of this chapter. Has a main root, a taproot, usually present. Pollen grains with 3 openings, and the floral organs usually in multiples of 4 or 5. Examples of eudicots: nearly all fruits, vegetables, shrubs, and broad-leaved trees. So just like animals, plants have organization, hierarchical organization, consisting of organs, tissues, and cells. And so organs, these are our roots, stems, and leaves. So the organs of a plant are the roots, stems, and leaves. And then a grouping of cells, recall, is a tissue. We have 3 main tissues in plants: dermal, vascular, and ground tissue. And the cells that make up the 3 tissues are our parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and then we've mentioned these back in chapter 26, the water-conducting cells of the xylem, which, remember, conducts water, and our sugar-conducting cells of the phloem, which can move carbohydrates. And so let's look at our 3 basic organs. So the shoot is the part that is above the ground. The root is the part that is below the ground. And then the leaves are coming off of the shoot system. So roots take up water and minerals from the ground and take it up into the leaves with the xylem. The shoot system includes the stems, leaves, and in angiosperms, flowers take in CO2 and light from above ground. So again, remember, our organs are our roots, stems, and leaves. We have 2 main systems, like organ systems, just like we've talked about before. And like I just mentioned, our shoot system is going to include our stems, leaves, and the root system is going to include the roots and all the root hairs and things associated with roots. And they're a symbiotic system. As we've mentioned in the past, the roots rely on the sugars produced by the shoot system, and the shoots rely on the water and the minerals absorbed by our root system. And so here is a little bit better illustration of the fibrous root system versus our taproot system. And so the root functions in anchoring the plant, absorbing minerals and water, and storing those carbohydrates, as we see with this taproot that looks similar to a carrot. We have small or trailing plants that are anchored by the fibrous roots. And the terminology used to describe our fibrous root system are our adventitious roots, which are the interweaving roots that anchor the plant, and our lateral roots that arise from the adventitious roots form their own additional lateral roots to increase surface area. Because remember, roots, their big job is to absorb things, and the more surface area you have, the better you can absorb. And recall back also with chapter 26 how we have the fungal mycorrhizal association that increases that surface area for the roots. With our taproots, we have one main vertical root that is called the taproot, allows the plant to grow tall and better disperse seeds. These lateral roots that branch off of the taproot, but not nearly as numerous as we see in our fibrous root, help to increase surface area and are in charge of that absorptive job of the plant. So here is that mycorrhizal association that I just mentioned. Also, we can see this main root, and whether fibrous or taproot, you're going to have all these nice root hairs, which also increase the surface area of the plant by 70 to 90%. So those root hairs, prominent feature, encompass 70 to 90% of the root hair surface. We have many different types of roots. So we have adaptive roots, so additional root adaptions. We have our pneumatrophs, and so these are going to be aerial roots specialized for gas exchange in swamps and mangroves. And so those are some kinds called the tree knees. So they're knobby, they will pop up so that the plant can get air. We have strangling aerial roots, and these roots grow to the ground, wrapping around the host tree or other structure, giving the parasitic plant that's growing on that tree an advantage. Prop roots, this is corn. So these are arrow roots to support tall, top-heavy plants like maize. Your storage roots, so many plants, including beets, store food and water in their roots. So a lot of our vegetables. And buttress roots. These roots are trees of the tropics, allow for tall growth, shallow soil by supporting the trunk. And so these are our buttress roots. Moving on to our stems, the second of our organs. Stems, we have lots of jobs for stems. They orient the shoot to improve leaf photosynthesis. So you'll see when we get to chapter 31, I think it is, how they will orient and move with the sunlight. They also are involved in reproduction and increase fruit dispersal. On the stem, we have the nodes. The nodes are where the leaves actually come off of the stem, and the area in between the nodes are called the internodes. And so the nodes come off of the stem, and the internodes are the segments in between. The growth of our stems, so growth of young shoot, occurs at the apical meaning tip. So it's going to occur at the tip. You can see here an apical bud at the tip of this plant. Also, you'll hear it called a terminal bud. This is our main growth point. And it aids in elongation of a young shoot. An axillary bud is going to come off to the side, or an apical. And so here's our axillary bud coming off right where the node is coming off. So located at the upper angle formed by the leaf and the stem, has to form a lateral branch, thorn, or flower. So here are those axillary buds. And you can have the axillary or apical buds at the ends of our limbs also, not just at the tip of the main stem itself. And here are some adaptations of the stems, so modified stems. So rhizomes are horizontal underground stem. So a lot of people mistake them for roots, but they're actually a stem, which vertical shoots and advantageous roots grow in intervals. And so here's a rhizome, here's your nodes, and then here are roots. So here's the rhizome, here's the roots, and here's our shoots. And so those rhizomes are the horizontal underground stem. You can also have a stolon, and this is what we see in strawberries. Shoots or runners that grow along the surface, not under, but along the surface, enabling asexual reproduction. And like I just mentioned, common in strawberry plants. So here's the stolon, and here is the stolon on this plant. And then last but not least are our tubers, which are enlarged ends of rhizomes, so enlarged ends of rhizomes, or stolons, specialized for storing food, common in potato plants. So our tomato plants are, you've heard them called tubers, and that's why, because they are modified stems, and those modified stems are called tubers. Now our leaves. The leaf is the main photosynthetic organ of our vascular plants. And so leaves have other functions: gas exchange, dissipation of heat, and defense. They actually have modifications to them that will prevent insects from eating them. To enhance surface area for photosynthesis, they have a flattened blade. They stack, or not stack, they have a stalk called a petiole. And so here is the petiole going out to the blade. And together, the petiole and the blade are the leaf. And remember, axillary buds come out from the stem above where the leaf comes out from the stem. And recall back that our monocots and eudicots have differing arrangements of veins. Monocots have the parallel veins, and eudicots have the branching veins. And as we saw with both our stems and our roots, we also have modifications of leaves. And so almost all leaves specialize for photosynthesis, but some have additional modifications that give them advantageous properties for our plants. So tendrils, these are used for support and adhering to structures and growing on things. Common in vines. Spines we see in cacti. These are modified leaves, so the spines themselves are modified leaves for protection. Storage leaves, and so our onions. So the onions that we eat are a modified leaf, and so it is leaf for storing food. And then we have reproductive leaves. And so everybody, I'm sure, in some point in their life has had a spider plant that somebody gave them. And so all these little spider plants coming off the main plant can actually grow a whole new plant. And here we see these little advantageous plants. These are on succulents a lot of times. You can take each of these little individual plants and they will grow another plant. So they can take root in the soil and grow an entirely new plant. All right, so we will stop the first lecture here. We'll pick up with tissues and cells of plants in the next lecture. Let me know if you have any questions.